Why, hello everyone. Alex Corey here with Cultivating Change. It has been quite a while since my last episode, and I want to give you a couple updates as to what's been happening and what to expect going forward. If you've been following me on my Instagram, social media, which I've changed, on Instagram I am at Alexander S. Corey, Corey, and TikTok and all the other ones did not change. I had a bit of a nervous system collapse or a health collapse last fall, around November, December, which prolonged itself for a long time. Things like chronic fatigue, adrenal burnout, just a lot of stress all the time, which led to a whole bunch of interesting health faculties. I got to face all the things that I actually had information for, but that weren't really working in my own body. Like I couldn't biohack my way out of what my body was telling me to do, just chronic lethargy, high states of inflammation, which is hyper ironic given all the anti-inflammatory protocols and approaches that I know and do every day, but it wasn't enough to counteract. So I went on a little bit of a deconditioning and a healing journey over the last 8 months. And that involved a lot of nervous system regulation, learning about the aspects of my body and health that I hadn't tread into before. You know me from habit change, from very specific things of nutrition and of resistance training background, personal training, all that stuff. And the more bread and butter, or what people think of and what I thought of as bread and butter of health, and I realized that I was missing quite a few components of holistic health that were directly applicable to what I needed. My breathing was out of whack, which caused my nervous system to be totally dysregulated. I had, I learned how to feel my feelings. My emotional intelligence and regulation kicked online dramatically, which was quite a journey by itself. If you don't know what you're feeling at any given point, given like childhood trauma and a lot of programming and stories that you have, that's a very interesting monkey wrench in your normal day-to-day operations. And I ran into that. So nervous system regulation coupled with emotional regulation coupled with everything else in the course of normal day-to-day of just surviving basically just royally dysregulated me and caused me to put a pause on most things that I was going full steam ahead. Most of you will know, or maybe not, that I have a couple different businesses. Primal Health Coaching was my main focus and the focus of most of my podcast. KC Gardens, the microgreens aspect, has been sold and merged into another microgreens producer in Asheville, North Carolina, who is happily running it. And the farm that I was co-managing with Justin Gardner is kind of in a fallow year. He is in Thailand enjoying his freedom abroad, taking advantage of the global water business. And we still have water projects here that I'm working on in Wilmington, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, and in Asheville, North Carolina. So those things are still consistent. But going forward for the podcast, it's going to be less bread and butter health. My recent experience, bread and butter health meaning less dogmatic nutrition and rigid movement protocols and less still habit change, but I'm going to be turning into less of a health and wellness podcast, although that'll still be a pretty big fulcrum and focus of it, into more of an authentic experience for myself, which is kind of what it was anyway, but way less focus on data and peer-reviewed research, because I found it to be kind of a trap in my own experience. Whenever we consume, I'm the type of person that just loves and thrives on nutrition, and whenever we consume, or at least when I consume that much information, it turns into programming. It just turns into pictures, mental images, things that get stuck. And I've done quite a bit of intuitive energy work and learning how the different nuanced energy systems of my body work. I've done a lot of Qigong, started Kung Fu, more subtle energetic approaches and tied with breath work and all those. And that will be more of what the podcast is going to be turning into, is sort of personal experimentation and results I've gotten, results I've noticed that other people have also noticed, they'll still be data and research. But I find in the health and nutrition world, people just get stuck, myself included, on what does the research say? And what I realize is it doesn't matter at all. If that's not helping you feel better in your body, it doesn't matter. If the elimination diet is causing you more stress and dysregulating your nervous system so you can't absorb the nutrients anyways, it doesn't matter. If you're healthy and you're looking for a direction to go, research is one thing. But if all of the I have to stay in this lane, this is the way it's done, this says this, if it creates more stress and more restriction and more rigidness in your life, it doesn't matter. And that's what I ran into, was going to be bringing it back into the bread and butter of personal experimentation, which is why I started the podcast in the first place, just to document my journey, my interests, information I was learning, all of that stuff. So I will be continuing that documentation in all realms. And the biggest change will be in money, finance. I realized that when I had my nervous system collapse, you tend to have a little bit of an existential crisis, as you can say, or existential questions come up like, why am I here? What am I doing? Is this really what I want to be doing? All that stuff, right? If you're nervous, if your body's screaming at you for how you're living, those types of questions tend to come up. So I realized that my different pursuits around health, hadn't led me to the best health. I didn't feel like I was thriving. So I pivoted a little bit, and I realized that farming and water, food cultivation, were all just means of taking sovereignty over different things that impacted my body and my daily life. And that's what the habit change was for, is I really enjoy personal experimentation. If you're into human design at all, or you've seen any of my episodes regarding human design, I used to have a podcast with my old roommate, Danielle Rodenroth, founder of Soul Mapping, about it. My current partner loves it, and it's definitely an interesting type of typology. It's a system to gauge your energetic signature. And in that system, I am a projector, which has its own restriction and programming behind it, but tends to be quite accurate. Kind of like astrology, as much as I would like to just call it nonsense, but it often is very, very in tune and accurate. In that system, I am the type of person that learns by trial and error, which you could say is everyone, but not everyone learns that way. I have to do a personal experimentation, documentation journey in order to guide other people. So the podcast and my interests have always been like that. I've realized they've always been, how do I take full ownership of this aspect of my life in nutrition? Basically, during my nervous system and emotional courses this spring, I was like, oh, my childhood was a little more rocky and wobbly than I thought. And probably one of the core reasons of me going into all of those different pursuits was to learn how to be in my body, was to learn how to feed myself, to feel healthy, movement. I never really was taught that as a kid. It was kind of just built-in trauma responses, if you will. And a lot of the food cultivation was based in survival, so that I would always have food around me. And obviously that is why you cultivate food, but the fact and realization that it was a bit of a trauma response, and my farming partner taking a different life path, definitely helped the decision to sort of transition out of it a little bit for now, until I have my own land and will then be doing my own permaculture setup. But all of that to say, going forward, it's just going to be all sorts of different subjects of interest based on what I'm going through at the time. So this spring I did a nervous system regulation course through Linda Tai of Collectively Rooted, and I'll be doing an episode on that. I do a lot of courses. I have a fascination and invigoration. If you can hear the weed whacker going back, I apologize. I'm also going to be moving in 2 weeks, so life has been very interesting. Nervous system regulation, emotional regulation, self-development. I'm still going in the men's work and really self-discovery journey. Archetypes fascinate me. I've had quite a few of those journeys, like with Mankind Project and local men's groups. we'll be interviewing quite a number of book authors and involving sort of liberation and what it feels to sort of know your own path going forward, the self-discovery journey I've done, and the big change, finance. Money was the thing that I hadn't really fully taken ownership of. I had sort of just kind of been going along to get along. And I realized this year that finance is the big overarching theme of, sovereignty that you really need as an adult, and that I kind of just put off to the side and assumed someone else would handle, but realized it was me. It's like I have to learn this, and most of my family is involved in accounting or some sort of numbers based. So I've been training for 8 months, got my license in life insurance, not to be a life insurance agent, but to use life insurance, as quite a few people are nowadays, to help other people build sovereign financial wealth and build legacy. It is such a unique financial container that almost plays outside of the matrix, if you will. It's almost an outside of the banking system, which is weird to think about because we think of insurance agencies and carriers as very banking-esque, in the system, hard brick mortar, boring, rigid systems. They're actually, the way you use them is quite interesting. And the wealthy families of the world have been doing this for a long time. So I've been just kind of head down in that world for the last 8 months while healing myself, learning how that works for my own personal life, for my family, and been helping people sort of work their way out of the system while still retaining credit and still being, in the world, in the matrix, but having sovereign private assets that don't show up on scans unless you want them to. All sorts of interesting things to help you take control of your money, build your legacy and financial futures in a way that isn't so reliant upon global markets and all of that. It's a really cool field. I'll have my Series 6, which is financial professional, financial advisor, that type of world, credentialing by December, about 6 months. It is August 7th today, but that's just been my journey. And we'll be doing a lot more finance stuff, like real money, where to put things if you're just starting, where to put things if you're not just starting, how to use all these different financial containers. I've had crypto because I've been in the information technology field. That was what my professional degree was in, and I worked in that for a decade in information systems and data center maintenance. And cryptocurrency is built around that type of person and ethos, decentralized finance, essentially DeFi. But I've not really talked about all that. So we're going to bridge all of those different areas of being a human in the 21st century and growing up as a millennial, essentially. I'm right in the middle of millennial, although people have told me that I am an old soul at heart, and I definitely am. I have my geriatric moments for sure. My partner will agree with that. And yeah, this was much longer than I intended it to be, but the podcast will encompass all of those areas going forward. Quite a bit less focus on health and wellness and just that niche, because that is no longer my only niche although it's still my area of expertise. Finance is becoming more of that. We'll still be talking about water and its impact on human health, but more holistic health, more, you can say woo, just nuanced, energetic, and less traditional modes of health and wellness, even as the ones I was in weren't so traditional. But we're just going to go into the weeds. We're going to go off the left field and just have it be a little more authentic to my personal experience, and just keep it interesting, keep it fun and fresh. And I hope you come along for the ride. We'll have episodes. I'm going to do my best not to overwhelm myself, but I'm recording 3 different ones right now, so there should be quite a few, hopefully by mid-August. There'll be a few more on all areas of life. We'll start with breathing, because I've had to repattern, and I'm still working on repatterning my breathing, which has been a very interesting journey. We're going to do a little energetics with Qigong, Tai Chi. We're going to go all over the place. So I'll stop ranting, and I hope you come along for the journey with me. I look forward to connecting with you guys again. I do love sharing information. It energizes me. It's been nice talking to people about these things again and sort of feeling my energy come back. And we'll go over what I've done to make my energy come back. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Alex Corey here.